Hey everyone, today I'm going to address another aspect of fear around death because it is something that comes up all the time, and this is something that I haven't addressed directly. I kind of addressed it, but I didn't say it in this exact way, and I think it's really important to emphasize it in this way. So we'll be talking about the fear of death and why it's not irrational here in this video. My name is Abigail. Thank you for tuning in. I'm here to normalize these conversations and education about death to make sure that we die better at end of life. Let's get into it today. Okay. I really want to emphasize here, that having a fear of death is not irrational. There's nothing wrong with you. There is nothing that you're supposed to try to fix with it. I've mentioned that before. We're not trying to fix our fear. What I want to just take a pause on and just say, by educating ourselves, by exposing our nervous systems to things like this type of education, or some of the videos that I also link in my YouTube channels where it shows somebody dying comfortably, what it means, what it looks like, and explaining what's going on, doing an example of a death rattle, which I will be posting as well. All of those things are really good. And yes, I have seen a lot of deaths, and while that has really minimized my fear a lot about death, it hasn't completely removed it. And this is why we're biologically programmed to want to fear and avoid death, and fear and avoid actual and potential threats to our well-being that could lead us to getting sick and ending our lives. This is because biologically we're programmed to reproduce. We have a drive to reproduce. We have drives to eat, drives to drink, and drives to eat certain things that are really, this is why we think things like ice cream and things like that, because that stuff, sets off a bunch of hormones, and we, on kind of a biological, biological standpoint, we're like, oh, that's like the most calorically dense food that's going to help me live long and get through another day. So we are really healthy, and you are really healthy if you have a fear of death. It is not irrational. Now, when we talk about things like terror and things like that in reference to death and other things, those are very real. And this is when you need to do some type of professionally guided, safe exposure therapy in conjunction with, things like either around trauma, healing, and many other aspects around psychological type of care, mental health care. And, while I have done, many years in the medical field, and 15 of those 20 years in hospice and palliative care, I'm a registered nurse and I'm an expert clinician in this, but I'm not a therapist. And so I'm not going to try to pretend to be one. I can speak to certain types of, mental or type of counseling stuff in relation to hospice, end of life, and palliative care. But you really need to, our individual needs are so particular to ourselves that we really need to seek the proper particular care on an individual basis, ideally, if you can. And if you can't afford that, and you can't, right now use certain other types of, I think BetterHelp has been around. Nobody's sponsoring this, by the way. But, even if you can't do something like that, hopefully some group therapy or some other types of groups until you can get to a place where you can get some kind of individualized medical care for your specific needs. But when we talk about having an irrational fear of death, it's very healthy. It's very healthy to have this fear of, I don't want to deal with death. I'm afraid of death. I don't even really want to talk about it. I don't really want to deal with it. It's just not something I like dealing with. And that is really healthy. That's okay. The only thing I want to propose to you is that you take the opportunity, if you're still watching this, do what you're doing now and try to educate yourself on things like this and things about death and dying, because it is inevitable. That's just the thing. If it wasn't inevitable, I maybe still be doing these videos, but I wouldn't be pressing this issue so much, because it is such an imperative thing that we learn how to integrate into our lives, and not just in a way to be all morbid and depressive about this, but in a way to help us remain pretty sober to the value of our lives, the people within it, and within ourselves, because it does offer a lot more to our lives than just the fact that, one day we're going to die and we better hurry up and do all the stuff we can now. It helps us to remind ourselves that we have a power, we actually have our own superpower to decide whether or not a moment such as right now is going to mean something to us or not, or if we're just going to pass through it. So we are very powerful in that. So again, our fear of death is not irrational at all. And I want to just reassure you, everybody's afraid of death. I have seen people on social media who are like, oh, I'm fearless, or be fearless and no fear and da-da-da. That is kind of a little bit, I'm not really sure how sincere that is. Because like I said, even a person who has seen a lot of wonderful deaths and who have been a part of these wonderful deaths, either by providing medical care or my staff was doing it, and even I still have a little bit of fear of death. Okay, because that's kind of natural, and I've accepted that, and that's okay. This is okay, and this is really, really healthy. And use it to your advantage. Use it to motivate yourself to make the most out of your, not only preparing for your death, but also out of your life. So thank you so much. I'm Abigail, here to normalize these conversations and education about death and dying so we die better at the end of life. I'll talk to you soon.